She was hiding in a closet with her 7-year-old brother, hands shaking, heart pounding, while her violent ex-boyfriend tore through her apartment looking for money she didn't have. In her panic, she sent a desperate text message begging for help, but she sent it to the wrong number. What she didn't know? That wrong number belonged to one of the most powerful and feared Yakuza bosses in all of Tokyo, and instead of ignoring it, he showed up at her door. He had lost everything once. His wife, his young son, his reason to live. She had nothing left to lose except the little boy she was fighting to protect. What happens next will have you on the edge of your seat, because sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the only one who can make you feel safe. Subscribe right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because this story is about to take you places you never saw coming. The weight of the key felt heavy in Hana's hand. It always did after a long shift. Her fingers were stiff and smelled like fried onions and cheap soap. She pressed the key into the lock of her small apartment door and turned it slowly. She didn't want the click to be too loud. Inside, her 7-year-old brother Ren was sleeping. If she woke him, he might cry, and she didn't have the energy left to soothe him. She pushed the door open and stepped into the darkness. The air in the hallway was stale. The single bulb above her head flickered, casting long shadows on the peeling paint of the wall. She exhaled a long, shaky breath. Her feet ached inside her worn-out sneakers. All she wanted was a glass of water and to fall into bed. But the apartment wasn't dark. A sliver of light spilled out from under the kitchen door. Hana froze. Her heart gave a hard, painful thump against her ribs. She had turned off all the lights before leaving for the diner. She was sure of it. Ren couldn't reach the light switches without a stool. She took a step back, her hand hovering over the doorknob to leave. Then she heard it. A low, angry muttering from inside. A man's voice. Masaru. Her stomach dropped like a stone. Her ex-boyfriend. He had promised to leave her alone. He had promised to stop coming around after she told him she couldn't give him money anymore. He had a problem with gambling, and when he lost, he came looking for her. She pushed the kitchen door open with a trembling hand. Masaru was sitting at her small table. He was slumped in the chair, a half-empty bottle of cheap whiskey in front of him. His eyes were bloodshot. His hair was messy. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. He looked dangerous. "Hana," he slurred, looking up. A cruel smile twisted his lips. "You're late. I've been waiting." "Masaru," she whispered. "You can't be here. You need to leave. Now." "Leave?" He laughed. A harsh, grating sound. "I need money, Hana. I had a bad night, just enough to get back in the game. I don't have it. I have to pay rent. I have to feed Ren." Masaru stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the linoleum floor. He was taller than her, broad-shouldered, and the alcohol made him unsteady but mean. He took a step toward her. Hana shrank back. "Don't lie to me," he hissed. A small sound came from the doorway. "Hana?" Ren stood there in his dinosaur pajamas. He was rubbing his eyes with one small fist. He looked terrified. "Ren, go back to your room," Hana said quickly. "It's okay, just go back." Masaru turned toward the boy. His face darkened. "Get back in there, you little brat." Ren flinched. His eyes filled with tears. Hana moved fast. She grabbed Ren's hand and pulled him behind her. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Don't you ever talk to him like that." Masaru's jaw tightened. He raised his hand. Hana didn't wait. She grabbed Ren and ran. They made it to the coat closet off the hallway. Hana pulled Ren inside and shut the door softly. Darkness wrapped around them. She could hear Masaru stumbling through the apartment, cursing under his breath. "Shh, baby," she whispered, pulling Ren close. His small body was shaking. "Remember what I said. Keep still. Stay quiet." He nodded against her chest. She could feel his tears soaking through her shirt. Her phone was in her pocket. She pulled it out with trembling fingers. The screen glowed too bright in the darkness. She typed fast, barely looking. "Please come help. He found me. I'm scared." She hit send. Her breath came in short gasps. A reply came almost instantly. Just 3 words. "Coming. Stay quiet." Relief flooded through her. Mai was coming. Her friend from the diner. Everything would be okay. She held Ren tighter and waited. Minutes passed. They felt like hours. Masaru's footsteps grew quieter, then stopped. She heard the front door slam. He was leaving? That didn't make sense. He never left without getting what he wanted. Then she heard new footsteps. Different footsteps. These were steady, calm. They stopped right outside the closet door. A knock. Soft. Controlled. "Miss Mori, I believe you texted me." It was a man's voice. Low and smooth. Not angry. Not drunk. Not Mai. Hana's blood went cold. She looked at her phone again. Really looked this time. Her eyes widened. She hadn't sent the message to Mai. Wrong number. She had sent her cry for help to a complete stranger. Hana cracked the closet door open just a sliver. A man stood in her hallway. He wore a dark suit, perfectly pressed. His black hair was neatly styled. His face was calm, almost expressionless. But his eyes, dark and deep, held something she couldn't quite read. Intelligence, patience, power. Behind him stood two more men in matching suits. Their hands were folded in front of them. They looked like they were waiting for orders. "My name is Kazuo Takeda," the man said. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect she didn't expect. "Your message reached me by mistake, but I am here now." Hana clutched Ren against her. "Who are you? How did you find me?" The number was enough. "Your building is not well secured." His voice was matter-of-fact, not threatening. "The man who was here, Masaru, he left when my car arrived. He recognized it. Recognized it. Why would he—" She stopped. Her brain caught up to what her gut already knew. Yakuza. The suits. The calm authority. The way Masaru had fled without a fight. This man wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful in ways that existed outside the law. She should have been terrified. And part of her was. But another part, a tired, worn-out part, felt something else entirely. Safe. "I don't want trouble," she said quietly. "I just want him to leave us alone." Kazuo studied her face. His gaze moved to the bruise forming on her arm where Masaru had grabbed her earlier that week. She saw something flicker in his eyes. Not pity. Something harder. Like anger. But controlled. "He will not bother you again," Kazuo said simply. "I will make sure of it." "Why? You don't even know me." He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. "I know enough. You are protecting someone smaller than yourself. That is reason enough." Hana didn't know what to say. She felt Ren shift against her, lifting his head to peek at the stranger. The boy didn't cry. He didn't hide. He just looked at Kazuo with wide, curious eyes. Kazuo looked back. Something in his expression changed. Just for a second. A shadow passed over his face, then disappeared. "I will leave guards outside your door tonight," he said. "You can refuse, but I would ask you not to. I don't need— I am not offering charity." His voice was firm but not unkind. "I am offering protection." "There is a difference." Hana wanted to argue. She had spent her whole life taking care of herself and Ren. She didn't need anyone. She didn't trust anyone, but she was so tired, and Ren was so scared. "Fine," she whispered. "Just for tonight." Kazuo nodded once, then he turned and walked toward the door. His men followed silently. Before he left, he paused. "Miss Mori, the mistake you made tonight, sending that message to the wrong person, may turn out to be the safest mistake you ever made." Then he was gone. Hana stood in the empty hallway holding Ren close. Her heart was still racing, but for the first time in months, she didn't feel alone. Outside, she heard the quiet rumble of a car engine. Through the window, she could see a black sedan parked across the street. Two figures sat inside, watching. Ren tugged her sleeve. "Hana, is the scary man coming back?" She knelt down and looked into his eyes. "No, baby, he's not coming back." Ren nodded slowly. He looked toward the window, then back at her. The other man, he wasn't scary. Hana didn't know what to say, because somehow, despite everything, Ren was right. Kazuo Takeda wasn't scary. He was something else entirely, and that was what frightened her most of all. Morning came too quickly. Hana woke to pale sunlight creeping through the thin curtains. Her body ached. Her eyes were swollen from crying in the night. Beside her on the narrow bed, Ren was still asleep. His small hand was curled around her arm, holding on even in his dreams. She lay there for a moment, staring at the water-stained ceiling. The events of last night felt like a strange dream. Masaru, the closet, the wrong text message, and then, him, Kazuo Takeda, the man in the dark suit with eyes that saw too much. She had agreed to one night of protection. Just one night. Slowly, she untangled herself from Ren and padded to the window. She pulled back the curtain just an inch and looked outside. The black sedan was still there. Her stomach tightened. Two men sat inside, just like before. They weren't moving, they weren't threatening, they were just present, watching, waiting. One night had turned into a morning. Hana let the curtain fall and pressed her back against the wall. Her hands were shaking. She didn't know if it was anger or relief, maybe both. She made breakfast for Ren, rice and a fried egg. It was all they had left until payday. He ate quietly, still sleepy, occasionally glancing toward the window. "Are those men still outside?" he asked. "Yes." "Are they bad men?" Hana hesitated. She thought about how Masaru had run the moment Kazuo's car arrived. She thought about the calm in Kazuo's voice, the way he had bowed to her in her own hallway. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but I don't think so." Ren nodded and went back to his egg. After breakfast, she walked him to school. The black sedan followed at a distance, not close enough to crowd her, not far enough to lose sight. She felt like she was being watched by a shadow that meant no harm. It was the strangest feeling in the world. When she returned home, there was an envelope on her kitchen table. Her heart stopped. She hadn't left it there. The door had been locked. She was sure of it. She picked it up with trembling fingers and opened it. Inside were receipts. Her electricity bill, paid. Her water bill, paid. 2 months of back rent, settled in full. There was also a note handwritten in neat, careful letters. "These are not gifts. They are necessities. You should not have to choose between safety and survival." Katie Hana's hands shook harder. She read the note again, and again. Fury rose in her chest like fire. She didn't ask for this. She didn't want this. Who did he think he was, stepping into her life, paying her debts, knowing her struggles? She had worked double shifts for months to stay afloat. She had skipped meals so Ren could eat. She had fought every single day to keep them going. And now some stranger, some powerful, unknowable man, had swept in and fixed everything with money she hadn't earned and didn't want. It felt wrong. It felt like a trap. She grabbed her phone and scrolled back to the wrong number. Her fingers hovered over the screen. She wanted to yell at him. She wanted to demand answers. But she didn't have his number saved. She didn't even know how to reach him. She threw the phone onto the couch and sat down hard. Tears burned in her eyes. She wiped them away angrily. She was not going to cry over this. She was not going to feel grateful for something she didn't ask for. But somewhere deep inside, past the anger and the pride, a small voice whispered the truth. For the first time in years, she wasn't drowning. 3 days passed. The guards stayed. Hana stopped counting the hours she spent ignoring them. She went to work. She picked up Ren from school. She cooked dinner and washed dishes and tried to pretend her life was normal. But it wasn't normal, not anymore. Masaru didn't come back, not once. She didn't get any angry phone calls, no threatening notes. It was like he had vanished from the earth. She knew Kazuo was behind it. She didn't know how, she didn't want to know. On the 4th day, she left work early. Ren's school had called. He wasn't feeling well. Just a headache, they said. Nothing serious. But she rushed there anyway, her heart pounding the whole way. When she arrived at the school gates, she froze. Kazuo was there. He stood near the entrance, hands in his pockets, watching the children file out. He wasn't doing anything threatening. He wasn't even moving. But his presence was impossible to miss. The other parents gave him a wide berth, glancing nervously at his dark suit and serious face. Hana's blood ran hot. She marched toward him. "What are you doing here?" Kazuo turned to face her. His expression was calm, unreadable. "Your brother's school sent a message. I came to ensure he was safe." "How do you even know which school he goes to?" Her voice was rising. She didn't care. "How do you know anything about us? You paid my bills. You have men watching my apartment. Now you're at his school. This is too much." Kazuo didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just stood there, taking her anger like it was rain. "You're right," he said quietly. "I overstepped." That stopped her. She had expected him to defend himself, to explain, to make excuses. Instead, he simply agreed. "I did not mean to frighten you," he continued. "I only meant to help. But I understand now that help without permission can feel like control." Hana stared at him. Her anger didn't disappear, but it softened at the edges. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Kazuo was quiet for a long moment. His dark eyes drifted past her, toward the school doors where children were laughing and running to their parents. "I had a son once," he said. The words hit her like cold water. He was younger than Ren, 4 years old. His name was Kenji. Kazuo's voice was steady, but something beneath it trembled. He and my wife, they were taken from me 3 years ago because I failed to protect them. Hana couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. I made a promise after that, Kazuo said. I would never stand by while someone else suffered the same fate. I would never let fear win again. He looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time, she saw past the power and the control. She saw the grief, the guilt, the man underneath. I am not trying to own you, Hana. I am trying to keep you safe. There is a difference. Before she could respond, the school doors opened. Ren came walking out, clutching his backpack straps. His face was pale, and his eyes were tired. But when he saw Kazuo, something changed. He walked right past Hana. He walked straight to Kazuo, and he reached up and took Kazuo's hand. Hana watched, speechless. Ren didn't speak. He just stood there, holding onto this man he barely knew like it was the most natural thing in the world. Kazuo looked down at the boy. His expression shifted. The hard lines of his face softened. His jaw tightened, like he was fighting something inside himself. Then slowly, carefully, he knelt down to Ren's level. "Are you feeling okay?" Kazuo asked gently. Ren nodded. "My head hurts, but I'm okay." "Good. Your sister is here now. She'll take care of you." Ren looked up at Hana, then back at Kazuo. "Will you come back?" The question hung in the air. Kazuo didn't answer right away. He glanced at Hana as if asking permission. She didn't know what her face showed. Confusion, maybe. Fear. Hope. "If your sister allows it," Kazuo said finally, "I will come back." Ren turned to Hana. His eyes were wide and earnest. "Can he, Hana? Please?" She wanted to say no. She wanted to protect her heart and her pride and her independence. She had built walls for a reason. She didn't need anyone. But Ren's hand was still wrapped around Kazuo's fingers, and there was something in the way Kazuo held on. Gentle, careful, like he was afraid of breaking something precious. "Okay," she whispered. "He can come back." They walked home together, all three of them. The black sedan followed at a distance, but Hana barely noticed it anymore. Ren walked between them, holding both their hands. He didn't talk much. He never did. But there was a peace in his silence that hadn't been there before. When they reached the apartment building, Kazuo stopped at the entrance. "I won't come inside unless you invite me," he said. Hana hesitated. Part of her wanted to send him away. Part of her wanted to understand him better. "Would you like some tea?" The words came out before she could stop them. Kazuo's eyes widened slightly, just for a second. Then he nodded. "I would like that very much." They climbed the stairs together. Hana unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment looked smaller than ever, with Kazuo standing in the hallway. He seemed to take up all the space just by existing. Ren went straight to the couch and curled up with his favorite blanket. Within minutes he was asleep. Hana made tea. Her hands were steadier now. The fear was still there, but it was quieter, softer. She set a cup in front of Kazuo and sat across from him. "Tell me about them," she said. "Your wife, your son." It wasn't a polite question. It was a real one. Kazuo wrapped his hands around the warm cup. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then, slowly, the words came. "My wife's name was Yuki. She was kind, gentle. She loved to garden. Kenji looked just like her." He paused. "They were my whole world." "What happened?" "A rival family. They wanted to hurt me. They knew the easiest way to do that was through the people I loved." His voice was flat, controlled, but his knuckles were white around the cup. "I wasn't fast enough, I wasn't careful enough, and I lost them." Hana felt tears sting her eyes. She didn't wipe them away. "That's not your fault," she said quietly. "It feels like it is." He met her gaze. "Every single day, it feels like it is." They sat in silence. The weight of his grief filled the room like smoke, but somehow it didn't push her away. It pulled her closer. "I understand now," she said finally. "Why you helped us. Why you keep helping. And do you still want me to stop?" She looked at Ren sleeping peacefully on the couch. She thought about the paid bills, the guards outside, the way Masaru had disappeared like a bad dream. "No," she said. "I don't want you to stop." Kazuo nodded once. Something in his eyes shifted. Relief, maybe, or hope. "Then I won't." 1 week passed, then 2. Hana started to believe that maybe, just maybe, things could stay this way. Quiet, peaceful, safe. She went to work at the diner. Ren went to school. The guards stayed outside and Kazuo visited twice a week, always polite, always respectful, always leaving before it got too late. They drank tea together. They talked about small things, the weather, Ren's schoolwork, the rude customers at the diner. Kazuo listened more than he spoke. When he did talk, his words were careful, chosen, like each one mattered. Hana found herself looking forward to his visits. She didn't want to admit it, but it was true. Ren was changing too. He smiled more, he slept better. He stopped waking up screaming in the middle of the night. When Kazuo came over, Ren would sit beside him on the couch and show him drawings from school. Kazuo studied each one like it was a masterpiece. For the first time in years, Hana's apartment felt like a home. Then Masaru came back. It happened on a Tuesday. Hana came home from work to find the door slightly open. Her heart stopped. She pushed inside carefully, every muscle in her body tight with fear. The apartment was empty. Nothing was broken, nothing was missing. But there was a note on the kitchen table. She picked it up. Her hands trembled. "You think some Yakuza suit can scare me forever? I'll be back. And next time I won't be asking nicely." The paper fell from her fingers. She couldn't breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. She grabbed her phone and called Kazuo. He answered on the second ring. "Hana, what's wrong?" He was here. Her voice cracked. "Masaru. He left a note. He says he's coming back." Silence on the other end. Then, calm and steady. "Pack a bag for you and Ren. I'm sending a car." "What? No, I can't just—" "Hana." His voice was firm but gentle. "This is not a request. He has broken into your home. He knows where you sleep, where Ren sleeps. Please, let me keep you safe." She wanted to argue. She wanted to say she could handle it herself, but the note was still on the floor, and Ren was due home from school in an hour. "Okay," she whispered, "okay." The car arrived 20 minutes later. Ren sat beside her in the back seat, clutching his dinosaur backpack. He didn't ask where they were going. He just held her hand and watched the city pass by through the tinted windows. The drive took them out of the crowded streets and into a quieter part of the city. The buildings grew taller. The roads grew wider. Then they turned down a private lane lined with cherry blossom trees. At the end of the lane was a gate, tall, black, iron. It opened silently as they approached. Behind it was a house unlike anything Hana had ever seen. It wasn't a mansion, not exactly. It was large, but not showy. Traditional in some ways, modern in others. The garden was perfectly maintained. Stone paths, trimmed bushes, a small pond with koi fish gliding beneath the surface. Everything was calm, ordered, peaceful. The car stopped in front of the main entrance. Kazuo was waiting. He opened the door for them. Ren stepped out first, his eyes wide as he looked around. Then Hana followed, her legs unsteady. "This is your home?" she asked. Kazuo nodded. "It can be yours too, for as long as you need." She didn't know what to say. She felt out of place here, like a weed in a garden of perfect flowers. "Come inside," Kazuo said gently. "Mrs. Sato has prepared rooms for you." Mrs. Sato was a small woman in her 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. She greeted Hana with a warm bow and Ren with a plate of fresh cookies. "You must be tired," she said, guiding them down a long hallway. "Let me show you to your rooms. You can rest before dinner." Hana followed in a daze. The floors were polished wood. The walls were decorated with simple paintings of mountains and rivers. Everything smelled like green tea and fresh flowers. Their rooms were side by side. Ren's had a window overlooking the garden. There was a small desk, a soft bed, and a shelf already filled with books and toys. "Did you do all this?" Hana asked Mrs. Sato. The older woman smiled. "Mr. Takeda did. He wanted the boy to feel at home." Hana's chest tightened. She looked at the room again. The careful choices, the quiet thoughtfulness. Kazuo had done this. For Ren. For her. She blinked back tears. "Thank you," she managed. Mrs. Sato patted her hand. "You are welcome here, child. This house has been too quiet for too long." The first few days were hard. Hana didn't know how to act. She felt like a guest who had stayed too long. She tried to help with chores, but Mrs. Sato shooed her away. She tried to keep to herself, but the house was too big to hide in. And then there were the rules. Kazuo's home ran on a schedule. Meals at set times, guards at every entrance. Visitors were rare and always announced. Hana felt like she was living inside a clock. One evening she snapped. "I'm not a prisoner," she said, standing in the doorway of Kazuo's study. "I can't live like this. I need to breathe. I need to make my own choices." Kazuo looked up from his desk. His expression was calm, but she could see something flicker in his eyes. "You are not a prisoner," he said slowly. "These rules exist to keep you safe, not to control you." "It feels the same." He stood and walked toward her. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to feel his presence but not so close that she felt trapped. "Tell me what you need," he said quietly, "and I will try to give it to you." Hana stared at him. No man had ever said that to her before. Not Masaru, not anyone. "I need to feel like I still have a life," she said. "I need to feel like I matter, not just as someone to protect, but as a person." Kazuo nodded slowly. "Then you will have that. I promise." He kept his word. The next day, Hana was allowed to walk the garden alone. She could come and go from her room without guards following. She could eat when she wanted, where she wanted. The rules softened. The walls came down, and slowly she began to breathe again. Ren adjusted faster than she expected. Within a week he was running through the garden, chasing butterflies and feeding the koi fish. He laughed more than she had ever heard him laugh. He slept through the night without nightmares. Kazuo kept his distance at first. He watched from the window or the edge of the garden. He never pushed, never intruded. But Hana noticed the way his eyes followed Ren, the way his face softened when the boy smiled. One afternoon she found them together by the pond. Ren was sitting on a stone bench and Kazuo was beside him. They weren't talking. They were just sitting side by side, watching the fish swim in slow circles. Kazuo's hand rested on the bench between them, and Ren's small fingers were wrapped around his thumb. Hana's heart ached. She thought about Kenji, the son Kazuo had lost, the boy who would have been close to Ren's age now. She wondered if this was healing for him, or if it was tearing open old wounds. That night, after Ren was asleep, she found Kazuo on the porch. He was staring at the stars. "Does it hurt?" she asked softly, "being around him?" Kazuo didn't answer right away. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Yes, sometimes it hurts more than I can bear." He paused. "But sometimes it feels like coming home." Hana sat down beside him. Their shoulders almost touched. "You don't have to do this alone," she said. He turned to look at her. In the moonlight his eyes were dark and deep, full of sorrow, full of hope. "Neither do you," he said. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was him. But somehow her hand found his. Their fingers intertwined. They sat there together under the stars, holding on to something neither of them could name. 2 days later, Ito brought news. Hana overheard them talking in the study. The door was open just a crack. She didn't mean to listen, but the words stopped her cold. "Kuroda is watching," Ito said. His voice was low and serious. "He knows about the woman and the boy. He's waiting for a weakness." "He won't find one," Kazuo replied. "He's patient. He waited 3 years to move against you before." Silence. "Then we will be more patient," Kazuo said finally. "Increase security, but do not frighten them. They have been through enough." Hana stepped back from the door. Her heart was racing. Kuroda. The name meant nothing to her, but the fear in Ito's voice said everything. There was still danger, real danger, and by staying here she was putting herself and Ren right in the middle of it. That night she couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the guards patrol the garden. She thought about leaving, going back to the apartment, taking Ren somewhere far away. But where would they go? Masaru was still out there, and now there was someone else, someone worse. At least here they had protection. At least here they had Kazuo. The next morning she made her choice. She found Kazuo in the kitchen drinking tea. "I'm staying," she said. "Whatever happens, I'm staying." He looked at her. For a moment, something cracked behind his careful mask. Relief, gratitude, something deeper. "Thank you," he said quietly. She nodded and sat down across from him. Outside, the sun was rising over the garden. Ren's laughter drifted in from the hallway. And for the first time in her life, Hana felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The days turned into weeks. Spring arrived slowly. The cherry blossoms in Kazuo's garden burst into soft pink clouds. Petals drifted down like snow, covering the stone paths in pale color. Ren spent hours outside, collecting them in little piles and presenting them to Mrs. Sato like treasures. Hana watched from the porch, a cup of tea warming her hands. She had stopped counting the days. She had stopped waiting for something bad to happen. For the first time in her life, she was simply living, and she was falling in love. She didn't want to admit it, not even to herself. Loving a man like Kazuo felt dangerous. He was powerful. He was mysterious. He lived in a world she didn't fully understand, but he was also kind, patient, gentle in ways that surprised her every single day. He cooked breakfast for Ren on Saturday mornings. He helped with homework in the evenings, sitting at the kitchen table with a pencil in his hand and a serious expression on his face. He never raised his voice. He never lost his temper. He was nothing like Masaru, nothing like anyone she had ever known. One morning she found herself watching him through the kitchen window. He was in the garden with Ren, teaching the boy how to feed the koi fish. The sunlight caught his dark hair. He was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since she had met him. Her heart ached. "You're staring," Mrs. Sato said from behind her. Hana jumped. Her cheeks flushed. "I wasn't," the older woman laughed softly. "It's okay, child. He stares at you too." That night Hana couldn't sleep. She walked through the quiet house, her bare feet silent on the wooden floors. The moon was full, casting silver light through the windows. Everything was still. She found Kazuo in the study. He was sitting by the window, a book open in his lap, but his eyes were distant. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. He looked up. Something flickered in his gaze. "I rarely do." She sat down across from him. The moonlight painted shadows on his face. "What are you thinking about?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low. "I'm thinking about how strange life is, how one wrong text message can change everything." He paused. "I'm thinking about how grateful I am that you sent it." Hana's breath caught. "I'm grateful too," she whispered. They looked at each other. The air between them felt heavy, charged, like a storm about to break. Kazuo set his book aside and leaned forward. "Hana, I need to tell you something." Her heart pounded. "What is it?" "I have spent 3 years building walls around myself. I told myself I would never feel again, never care again. It was easier that way." He swallowed hard. "But then you came. You and Ren, and you broke through every single wall." Tears pricked her eyes. "I don't know what the future holds," he continued. "I don't know if I can give you a normal life, but I know that I want you in mine, both of you, for as long as you'll stay." She reached out and took his hand. His fingers were warm, strong, steady. "I trust you," she said. "I didn't think I could ever trust anyone again, but I trust you." He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles gently. "Then that is enough," he said, "for now, for always." The peace lasted 3 more days. It shattered on a Thursday afternoon. Hana was picking Ren up from school. Everything seemed normal. The sun was shining. Children were laughing, parents were chatting by the gates. Then Ren disappeared. One moment he was beside her. The next he was gone. Panic tore through her like fire. She spun around, screaming his name. "Ren! Ren!" People stared. Some tried to help, but she couldn't hear them. She couldn't think. All she could see was the empty space where her brother should have been. She grabbed her phone and called Kazuo. Her hands were shaking so hard she almost dropped it. "He's gone," she gasped. "Someone took him. Kazuo, someone took Ren." "Breathe." His voice was calm, steady. "Tell me exactly where you are." She gave him the address. He said he would be there in 5 minutes. It was the longest 5 minutes of her life. She searched everywhere, the playground, the parking lot, the nearby streets. Nothing. He was nowhere. Then she heard it. A small voice, crying. She followed the sound around the corner of the school building. And there he was, Ren, sitting on the ground beside a broken fence, his knee scraped and bleeding, but alive, safe. Hana fell to her knees and pulled him into her arms. "What happened? Where did you go?" "I saw a cat," Ren sniffled. "It ran away and I followed it, but then I fell." "I'm sorry, Hana, I'm sorry." She held him tighter. Tears streamed down her face. "It's okay. It's okay. You're okay." A shadow fell over them. She looked up. Kazuo stood there. His face was pale. His eyes were wild with fear. Fear she had never seen in him before. "Is he hurt?" His voice was rough. "Just a scrape. He's fine." Kazuo knelt down beside them. For a moment, he just stared at Ren. Then he reached out and pulled the boy into his arms. Ren didn't resist. He wrapped his small arms around Kazuo's neck and held on tight. "I'm sorry," Ren whispered. "Don't be sorry," Kazuo said. His voice cracked. "Just don't scare us like that again." That night, Everything changed. After Ren was asleep, Kazuo disappeared into his study. Hana found him there hours later, staring at nothing. "What are you going to do?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "What I should have done a long time ago." "Kazuo, Kuroda has been watching us, waiting. The man who took everything from me once before." His jaw tightened. "I will not let him take anything else." He left before dawn the next morning. Hana sat by the window, watching the black car disappear down the lane. Her heart was heavy with fear, but somewhere beneath the fear was something stronger. Faith. She believed in him. She believed he would come back. And he did. He returned that evening, just as the sun was setting. He walked through the door, tired but unharmed. His suit was wrinkled, his hair was messy, but his eyes were peaceful. "It's done," he said quietly. "The threat is gone. You're safe now. Both of you." Hana didn't ask what he had done. She didn't need to know. She just walked across the room and wrapped her arms around him. He held her like she was the only thing keeping him alive. The next few days were quiet. Kazuo was withdrawn. He spent hours alone, staring at the garden, or sitting by the pond where Kenji used to play. Hana gave him space, but she never went far. One night she found him on the porch. His face was wet with tears. She sat beside him and took his hand. "Talk to me," she said. He shook his head. "I don't know how." "Then just let me sit with you." So she did. They sat there together in the darkness while the stars turned above them. She didn't push. She didn't pry. She just stayed. Eventually his fingers tightened around hers. "I thought I would feel relief," he said, when it was over. "But all I feel is tired." "That's okay," she said. "You've been fighting for a long time. It's okay to rest now." He turned to look at her. His eyes were red-rimmed and raw. "Will you stay?" he asked. "Not because you need protection, not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to." She lifted his hand and pressed it against her heart. "I'm here," she said. "I'm staying. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because this is where I belong." He exhaled. A long, shaky breath, like a weight, had finally lifted from his shoulders. Then he pulled her close and held her tight. 3 months later, the house was full of laughter. Ren ran through the garden, chasing butterflies and shouting at the koi fish. Mrs. Sato hummed in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Sunlight poured through the windows, filling every room with warmth. Hana stood at the sink, washing dishes. Kazuo came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Good morning," he murmured against her hair. She smiled. "Good morning." They stood there for a moment, watching Ren through the window. He was trying to catch a dragonfly, laughing every time it escaped. "He's happy," Kazuo said. "He is." "Are you?" Hana turned in his arms. She looked up at his face, the face she had once feared, the face she now loved. "Yes," she said. "I'm happy." He kissed her forehead, soft, gentle, like a promise. Later that day, Ren came inside with muddy shoes and a frog cupped in his hands. "Look, I caught him!" Kazuo knelt down to inspect the frog with great seriousness. "He's a fine specimen. What will you name him?" Ren thought hard. "Kazuo Jr." Hana burst out laughing. Kazuo's eyes widened, then he laughed too, a real full laugh that filled the room. Mrs. Sato appeared in the doorway, shaking her head but smiling. "This house," she said, "has finally come back to life." That night, after dinner, they sat together on the porch. Ren was curled up between them, half asleep, his head resting on Kazuo's shoulder. The stars were bright. The air was warm. The world was quiet. Hana reached over and took Kazuo's hand. He squeezed back, and in that moment she knew this was her family, not by blood, not by accident, but by choice. Love didn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it came as a quiet knock on the door, a wrong text message, a stranger who became something more. And sometimes the safest place in the world was in the arms of the man you never expected to trust. Hana closed her eyes and listened to the sound of her family breathing. Finally, she was home.